Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello and welcome to Corporate Communication. Sami al-Battashi from College of Applied Sciences, and today we are talking about global communication. Within the coming 30 minutes, we are going to talk about global communication. We'll discuss how small countries can conduct a very successful PR campaign relying on public relations instead of advertising. So we have two successful case studies coming from New Zealand, and these are Zespri, Kiwifruit, and the Lord of the Rings movies. Last week we looked at the context of international public relations and how the rapidly spreading globalization of companies and communication has meant that very little remains hidden anywhere in the world today. What's happening in one corner of the world can be flashed across news programs, of course, and everyone across the entire globe can learn that news. So today, we will try to zoom in to look at two examples from New Zealand, and we will highlight the power and the impact of storytelling in promoting your products or even the whole industry. And in this case, of course, we are talking about the tourism industry. Of course, in New Zealand, kiwifruit with its brand Zespri, and the second is the way the country promoted its tourism sector or industry by using the Lord of the Rings movies. Now, these two examples are very good of how small countries like New Zealand can plan their own international PR strategies and how they have been successful in achieving success and so on. Now, the first point to discuss here, we have something called bombardment. Means you have too much of something, and here we are talking about information. So you can have information about the product, information about the service, information about the country, information about anything else. If you just do a quick search on Google or Wikipedia, you can end up with millions of citations, 2,000 books published annually in the UK alone. You can have plenty of news outlets publishing and disseminating news, and of course supermarkets items waiting for you to buy them. So you are bombarded with lots and lots of things. Now, when it comes to communication, we call this information overload as a clutter. So you can have four types of clutter. We have product clutter, feature clutter, advertising clutter, and media clutter. Product clutter basically means when you have many products and services available and on supply. Feature clutter, when you choose a product, it may have too many features. So, for example, are you considering the speed of your internet? Are you considering the camera of your smartphone? Are you considering the storage? And so on. So these are called feature. Advertising clutter, we have plenty of advertising styles and formats. If you watch, for example, TV, of course, you will have them. If you turn the radio on, of course, you will have them. If you watch YouTube, of course, you will get sick of this advertisement that will play or run randomly. So you'll have advertisements coming from everywhere. When it comes to media industry, of course, you will have plenty of channels, plenty of media outlets, plenty of newspapers and magazines competing with one another to win the competition or to be ahead of the game. So these are making the process of disseminating information to be very, very difficult, as well as reaching audiences is becoming challenging. Now let's move on to talk about how Zespri or New Zealand kiwifruit succeeded in conducting or implementing a very successful PR campaign to promote both the company as well as New Zealand as a country. Now, prior to the implementation of the campaign, the PR manager of the company stressed the importance of having a global brand architecture and communications framework. So he says that our brand should be relevant to all markets and cultures. It should be used in all global communication. It should be applicable to all Zespri products. It should be simple and easy to use. And finally, it should be universal in its verbal, visual, and experiential vocabulary. That was the brief from the manager. You can see that the manager stressing the importance of considering all cultures and societies. It's not only about New Zealand, but it's also about the markets across continents. So the message for the campaign was puts life into life. That slogan carries energy, and you can feel that kiwi fruit is healthy, hence healthy life. Okay, so the company tried to use some sort of energizing and refreshing words and vocabularies on their advertisements or on their posters, as you can see from the slides, including vocabularies such as awakening, refreshing, energetic, healthy, and so on. And that's why you have this very energetic lady jumping or even bouncing on the poster. So this appeals to the audience. So that's what we call to put life into life, is to be energetic, to be vivid and refreshing. The brand tries to build that sense of heritage by showcasing very attractive and magnificent locations in New Zealand, and of course this later helped the country in promoting the industry. Now it says that excitement is a key word here in this program. So the campaign tried to excite the retailers and encourage them to promote the product in their shops and supermarkets. So the campaign aimed at establishing strong relationships with this target audience, that is retailers, who focus on quality, solidify support for Zespri to achieve target volumes, of course to achieve the targeted sales, position the product as value added and value for money. So it's not all about money itself, but also about the value, the added value. So these all were sufficient to educate and inform the retailers and the buyers about how the product is grown and harvested as well. A number of steps taken or instructions followed to make the campaign appealing to the audience by using such vocabularies like juicy, action-filled, interactive, educational, entertaining, memorable, and so on. And all these elements were incorporated into the campaign publications and materials. To create excitement, there were a number of things conducted or done during the campaign, including the use of theater, being experiential, encouraging participation, making it fun, and finally relationships. So theater was used to educate the public or the audience about the fruit. Being experiential, people were invited to experience, to taste, feel, smell, and adventure and discover the kiwi fruit. Participation was encouraged, so people were encouraged to be there and experience this campaign firsthand, making it fun. Of course, people are invited to play games, learn, and laugh together. And finally, of course, relationships are very important. These fruit growers showcased the hospitality of the country and how New Zealand is a very friendly and kind country to all people. Moving on to another tactic used, which is the roadshow concept. The company tried to promote the campaign by using a slice of heaven. This is basically a moving theater used to educate the public or the retailers about the kiwi fruit. Okay, so the company planned the roadshow concept. They basically had a very versatile, flexible, and mobile theater embedded with stage, fences, tables, chairs, and barbecue, and so on. And of course, this orchard called a slice of heaven. So the scene was set, guests were invited, and of course here we are talking about retailers and people with power and influence in all cities and towns across New Zealand, welcomed by New Zealand's songs. So basically the environment was appealing, so it appeals to the audience or the visitors. Now the hosts or those who welcomed those retailers or the visitors, of course, were the real kiwi fruit growers, not PR or actors. This is a very important part of the campaign. When you have real people or kiwi fruit growers participating in this event, that will make your campaign to be credible and genuine. So it's real. The event started and the visitors or retailers were invited to take their seats and enjoy the event. Lights come on and the grower host stands on the stage, and they started showcasing some of the attractive and exciting photographs of the fruit as well as the countryside. So they spent some time educating and showcasing how they grow it, how they take care of it, how they harvest it, and so on. In addition, they told their own story, the story of the fruit, how healthy they are, and how they are picked, packed, and shipped to their country. Of course, we are talking about the countries that those growers export their fruit to. This show was ended by saying that slice of heaven, and now it's time for the guests to try or to taste it. And of course, they were served with New Zealand lamb, served with kiwi fruit and fresh juices. So it was, part of the hospitality. Now, Roadshow team members are not only New Zealanders, but also people are coming from different countries. So they take part in this campaign, and that's what makes it attractive. It helps to attract the media. Now, by the end of the event, guests or retailers were stuffed with fresh kiwi fruit, books of recipes, and lots of reading materials to read and to take for their own use. Retailers are very impressed and want a slice of heaven in their store, so they were convinced about the product. It proved to be a big success because of the tactic used was very, very successful and powerful. All this was achieved very simply by applying public relations, so relying on PR instead of using advertising, which is very, very expensive. So this roadshow went to around 40 countries over 1 year and was well received wherever it went because it told such a nice, warm story, and it was good, simple entertainment. So here we have what we call infotainment, information plus entertainment. Now we can learn a number of lessons from this case study. First and foremost is to select or pick a story that appeals to the audience. Your story has to appeal to the audience. You have to promote the story or the product over and over again by using different types of advertisements and different types of media channels, including radio, television, social media, and so on. Also, you have to let the target audience participate and take part in this campaign. You have to involve them in your campaign. So they have to take part, and that of course will push them to support you along the way. Make it their story. As I said, they have to be part of the story, part of the success. And finally, you have to keep it fresh and true and vivid. You should also remember that consistency is the key to success. In order to ensure consistency in your PR campaign, you need to make sure that all your communications are integrated and aligned with each other. So you have to be very clear about your objective, and then you should plan your communications tools or even the selection of the tools to achieve that aim. You should also produce a range of materials to suit different targets or audiences. We know that different people or different generations have different preferences. Some of them will prefer listening to the radio, some of them will prefer to watch TV, and some of them are more into social media, especially if we are talking about the younger generation. So you have to keep this in mind. You should also clearly identify and profile your audiences. Of course, there are lots of techniques and methods used to segment your public. You have to have good understanding of the public, including their interests, their preference, their education level, their demographics, of course, age, gender, and so on and so forth. Target your key influencer. Nowadays, we have something called social media influencers. So these are very, very powerful when it comes to younger generation. So you have to identify them. You have to identify their interest and try to establish and maintain good relationship with them. You can use them as a sort of third-party endorsement for your product and services. In addition, you should prepare toolkits, a collection of photographs, video footage, and a range of interesting stories that you can combine together and give it to the media or even to the general public. So these are educational stuff or material used to promote your product and services. Identify media relations worldwide. You have to identify news agencies, news channels that you can collaborate with or even talk to, gain free publicity. Identify any issues which may cause problems. This is called crisis management. You have to identify small or minor issues before they turn into crisis. You should also provide events and places where people can experience your products. So experiment is very, very important and relevant for your product. You have to test your product, of course, or something called piloting. So you have to test this product by a number of customers, and then you have to listen to them, to their feedback and recommendations. If they are very satisfied about the product, that means you have high chances of getting profit and being successful. If you are having negative feedbacks from those customers, of course, you need to restudy and re-examine your product before introducing it to the market. You should also keep looking at new trends to refresh your campaign. Technology is one of the things that you need to consider. So you have to keep an eye on what are the new technologies used or emerging in the market and try to jump on the bandwagon. So you have to keep updated and you have to keep up with the technological advancements as well. Now, moving on to the second case study for today, and here we are talking about how a country, New Zealand in this context, used movies and films to promote tourism industry. Now we are talking about the Lord of the Rings movies. Now this movie, directed by Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings series, helped New Zealand to improve its tourism industry. So the government of New Zealand decided to take advantage of the films by planning an international PR campaign which would encourage people to visit the country and see the shooting locations for the films. Now, when talking about the opportunity or chances of getting the industry or the tourism industry improved and enhanced by the film or the movie, the Prime Minister of New Zealand said that with all three of the trilogy's films shot at the range of locations throughout New Zealand, The Lord of the Rings presents a unique opportunity to showcase our country to the world. And that's what happened exactly. There were also potential for tourism industry, computer software, filmmaking, wine and food, and dozens of other local industries, and especially small and medium enterprises. So the idea was that to plan a guest media relations program, representatives from all different industries were invited to come together, and they devoted their own resources and help in planning this program. Journalists from all over the world were invited to come and visit New Zealand over the 3 years that the films were released. They were invited to tour the locations that were used for shooting the film or the movies, and they were impressed by the film studios that were used. They were invited to visit the best places for growing grapes in New Zealand, and of course tasted local food cooked by top chefs. So they experienced the lifestyle in New Zealand. Some maps were created identifying New Zealand as the Middle Earth. These journalists were invited to visit this Middle Earth, and they were very exciting locations which were featured in the films. Some parties, New Zealand parties, were held in different cities across the entire globe, including London, Rome, New York, Tokyo, and so on, with of course New Zealand food and wine served to key influencers, media influencers, opinion leaders, and so on. The campaign was also featured in different film industry magazines, highlighting the greatness and the beauty of the place which was used to produce the films. Some of the materials and film supplements was also seen. You can see some of these elements on the slides available. In addition, Air New Zealand took part in the campaign. Around 3 different airplanes were used to promote this campaign. This helped in grabbing the attention of the media across different countries. So they were used to grab the attention or to gain media attention. As far as results are concerned, the campaign was very, very successful. Results surpassed expectations. So there was an increase in tourism industry by up to 14%. 10 new international films were starting to shoot in the country, which was very good. Media coverage was outstanding. The films or movies were featured in different publications. The movie also was mentioned in magazines of all types, including travel, adventure, food, wine, lifestyle, and so on. The Prime Minister of Tourism said that PR campaign and the films helped change the perception of New Zealand from a far away country it would be nice to visit to a must-see country known worldwide as a sophisticated, world-class and year-round destination for tourists. So that was a major shift and change in the perception of how people see New Zealand as a country. Now, the turning point was when the world premiere of the final film in the trilogy, The Return of the King, was held in the director's home city of Wellington, attracting an international audience of celebrities. And then, of course, this film went on to win 11 Oscars. That was amazing. So what we can learn from this case study is that public relations can help you, especially if you are a company or a country with low budget. You can rely or even work on public relations strategies to promote your business with low budget. And that what was proven to be successful. You can rely on PR to promote your own business and your own products and services. In short, you can spend very little in promoting your product and business. And this well-planned focus on public relations include media management. You have to be very effective and critical in dealing with the media. You should assign someone or recruit someone as a spokesperson for the company or the country to deal with the media. You should hold press conferences providing information and updates on the business. You should hold different media events and so on. Event organization, of course, planning for an event is very exhausting, and you have to have a team taking care of organizing and so on. Careful selection of audiences. Your targeting should be very, very systematic. You have to be very selective and careful when targeting your audience. And finally, your message should be interactive, interesting, and appealing to the audience. So here in Oman, we can learn from New Zealand on how can we capitalize and how to utilize public relations in promoting the country, as well as different industries, including tourism and so on. That's all what we have for this week. Thanks for listening. And if you do have any questions, please pose your questions on the discussion board. Thanks a lot.